day, partly because I am, but partly because it's not been long since we had a chat with Ghost Breath on his faction stories, which was a lot of fun yesterday. Change of topic today. Change of topic. You'll have noticed CryptoJack's post in the announcements channel yesterday. We finally shared our license with you. There's a Google Doc in the link in the announcement, which we all recommend you go and take a look at. We have also summarized some of the key elements of that license in plain English so that you can cut to the essence of what it is that we're trying to deliver here, so that you can understand what your rights are and how we've approached it and what our thinking is around it as well. So this is a session for two reasons, basically. One is to provide further clarity and repeat ourselves to give you more opportunity as part of our ongoing commitment, as part of a consultation process with the community to get this right, but also a chance to ask questions. So anytime we're on the stage, you can come up and talk to us, raise your hand, we'll bring you up. This show is yours just as much as it is ours. It's a community show. We also use the AMA questions channel if you're new here. Can't think you are at this point, but use the AMA questions channel if you want to post questions. Means you would rather write to us rather than come up and speak to us. That's entirely your call. We'll feel things as they come up. Full disclosure, neither CryptoJack or I are legal in background. We're not legal experts. We have taken legal advice from an IP lawyer in the formation of the license. And so I think today is going to be one of those days where we might get some interesting or challenging questions, and we might have to take those away and come back to you once we've reconsulted with our lawyer. But at the same time, we're relatively well versed in what we've now got and we've shared with you already. And that's about it. What else would you like to say to set the table, Jack? So I think in the absence of any community questions around the license today, I think what was going in my head was that we should probably clarify some of those points of emphasis that you've already drawn out in the announcements channel, Jack, and then we can give people time to consider, because people might not have picked this up yet and read through it. So it's possible that people are coming here to learn for the first time what's in there, what it contains, and just a very plain English summary of how to interpret it. So that might be an opportunity then to consider it and come back to us. Everyone knows we're launching on Tuesday, but we still have some opportunity to have a dialogue with the community as we head into pre-sale. So it might be something to take people away with. And I won't drag this recording out just for the sake of filling a slot. It's not an AMA, not in the same way that we do for the whole project. This is very specifically around the license and IP rights. And we'll keep this recording and repost it again in the announcements channel so everyone has a fair chance to pick up on the key thread here and give it some consideration as we head into Tuesday, Wednesday next week. So is there anywhere in particular you'd like to start, Jack? Oh, and before I do that as well, I think the final thing in my head is just maybe if we come up with a couple of precedent examples of these things in action in the rest of Web3, just to give people some context for similar uses, maybe that might be helpful for conceptualizing what we're describing here. It's a clean example, though, isn't it, Jack? Because they have a similar situation to the one that we'll find ourselves in too, which is they have tokens with Bored Ape Yacht Club logos on the NFTs themselves. So you'll have an ape, which they call the merch ape, with either a T-shirt with the skull logo on the T-shirt, or a cap with BAYC, which is otherwise the BAYC logo, but in the context of the ape wearing it on the baseball cap. That is fine to represent on a derivative piece of merchandise or other art form in the ape wearing it and in context of your ownership of that token. But if you then reproduce that cap in a different way by taking the logo off the cap and putting it to the side of the Bored Ape, for example, that contravenes the rights that you've been provided by the license. So it's the same in our case. We have Weirdos merch hats, for example. We don't yet have Weirdos merch, but for example, if we did, it would be it'd be the case that you'd only be able to represent your weirdo or clone weirdo in this case, in many cases, in that digital derivative, not the Weirdos logo, absent of your weirdo token. So we've got. Go ahead if you want to carry on. I was probably just going to move on to one of the other key points, really. So if you're happy to skip through, we can keep moving. So another point that Jack pulled out in plain English in the summary was around cutting the collector into future deals from the project team itself. And so one of the challenges I think we have is the practicalities around negotiations on the community's behalf. And I think that paragraph that Jack provided earlier is a very clear summary of the position that we find ourselves in, which is, frankly, it's not workable for licenses to reflect that collectors should be cut in on an individual basis, because those deals will be very, very difficult to do on a community consultative basis at the point of striking that deal. So what we've said here is that we'll be having conversations around future revenue sharing with individuals or groups of token holders on a good faith basis, in consultation with the community as those opportunities arise, but not in a way that the structure demands that we have to have that conversation with each and every individual holder, because I think otherwise you just end up in a place of inertia and unable to actually execute on something which elevates the overall brand and value of individual tokens on your behalf. So that was one of those areas that I think we were probably, our initial view was that it would be great to offer as much opportunity to have that consultation on an ongoing basis, but not at the expense of getting the deal done. Is that fair to say, Jack? So, Jack, we do have a question now. I think the name is cryptophoenix.eth, and it says, okay, so I'm happy you're having this discussion. I've just started up my business and I'm making guys NFTs on wood. So this piece is mine below, so I'm not selling, but want to check if the elements used here will be okay, or will I need to not use this element? I was going to make one of the plaque cards similar to this, but with the weirdos at the bottom in place of long lost, if you see what I'm saying. And the picture for that is in the lodge, if you want to take a look at the picture that Crypto Phoenix is referencing. He's got, he or she, or they have a wooden representation of their weirdo, and then there's a side wood carving of the weirdo's logo, and then there is a example card where it says long lost, and I think the intention there was to have the weirdo's logo in replacement of the word long lost. In essence, that would be the way that would be represented. So this kind of cuts to what we were saying about the ownership of the license in context of your token versus RIP. So in essence, I'm probably going to simplify this very quickly and then let Jack come up with a slightly more detailed and nuanced answer. But your NFT in the square wood frame on the left-hand side is completely fine, and that's what the license grants you. The Weirdos logo on the right-hand side is not okay for resale. For personal use, that's a completely different matter. But from a commercial perspective, in terms of using that for with the intention of selling, that's not okay. And same for the long lost area of the card where you'd be representing that as a saleable item as well. So if it was for personal use, that's a different matter. But just I think with the conversation so far has been around rights around commercial use. This is amazing, though, by the way. I just want to get that across. I've just been admiring this piece for about 2 minutes now, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So you've got a really high finish wood NFT, basically, which is super cool, and I desperately want one for myself, having seen it. But I think, to Jack's point, I think having the represented logo on the frame and the separate card is problematic from a resale perspective. So something to consider as you go through the license and just sort of pick out those key paragraphs. We've got that all covered in the permitted commercial uses and the restrictions, and then there's a personal use section as well. So, it's a very good example. In fact, this is why we're here. Is to get into the detail of this. Thank you so much for sharing it as well, because it gives us a live example to talk through with the community. But it's amazing, first and foremost. It looks fantastic. Yeah. Cry. Yeah, I'm crying, just thinking, every time it comes up, I'm just lamenting my loss. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a picture of it because it sits on my desk. It's going to be a really awful photo because there's a light reflecting off it, but it'll just give everyone a flavour of what it is Jack's referencing. And I'm just going to post it in the lodge right now so you can see what I'm talking about. There's a company called Nifty Slabs that make almost like fake baseball cards in slabs of your NFTs. So you can choose any NFT you like, as long as you're the owner of it at that point in time, which I was. And it just asks you for the details of the token, essentially just the name of the collection, your ID and the token number. And then it just puts that image in a slab, and it's for personal use. That's pretty much it, really. I had a lot of fun waiting for that to arrive in the post, and then inexplicably I sold my BAYC last year, but that's for another time. But I wouldn't be able to resell that, but they had my permission to recreate that on my behalf. I think that's the way to look at that. It carries no BAYC logo on the frame. It's just the token in isolation. There's also a load of text on the back as well, which also doesn't contain a BAYC logo anywhere. It does reference Bored Ape Yacht Club, and all the traits all sorts of very neatly laid out in a. They're very cool. Check out Nifty Slabs anyway. I think I wasn't planning to turn up to shill Nifty Slabs, but they are cool. But they do keep things very neutral and focused on the token, which you provide consent to reproduce in that form. So that's probably a good example of what we're describing here, actually. Yeah, they're not crazy price per Dave says. I think they're 0.08 ETH, which is a lot for a bit of cardboard and plastic. But again, that's not where the value is it? Should we talk about enforcement of rights? Just quickly. So, as Jack said, I think we've taken strictly the advice from our IP lawyer here, but actually there is a legal reason why it's difficult to provide non-exclusive licensees, which is you guys, a direct right to enforce IP rights yourselves. So the way the precedent in the space is that if you want to enforce an infringement of your rights, so someone else selling, say, a collection with your token in it, just as a derivative with your token in it, and you haven't provided that consent, the enforcement decision has to usually be made with the creator, and so you'd have to engage with us on a case-by-case basis as to how to enforce that, and we'd have to take a decision as to whether that is something which is in the best interest of the overall collection at that point in time. So there are specific legal reasons why that isn't enforceable at your end as a non-exclusive licensee holder. So slightly unusual one, but we were learning as we were receiving that information, putting it into the license ourselves. And then there's just a final reference point here that's worth pulling out around third-party complaints. I think you've probably heard us talk about this before, particularly in reference of the Genesis collection, the One of Ones, but we've taken a very risk-averse view when it comes to including certain elements in the art that might attract DCMA takedowns. It is worth saying at this point that it is impossible to protect yourself from all DCMA takedowns. People can just choose to do it unilaterally. It's not a particularly expensive process. People can just choose to do it. And you don't really have a huge amount of control over whether people have any validity in that claim and yet have motivation to do it. So we can't sit here and guarantee that we won't receive DCMA claims, but we have taken very, very conservative steps in the reproduction of things which obviously are inspired by lots of other brands and areas of other people's IP, but certainly from when we're talking about everything that we're doing, we feel that we're using it on the sort of fair usage line of the law, in that we will take something as a tribute in our art style and very much in Ghost Breath's interpretation of that. And someone like Shred Vader is a really, sorry, that's right, isn't it? Shred Vader? I keep getting that name wrong. Is a really good example of that. Shred Father. There you go, Shred Father. Very, very good example where we are inspired by an original brand with a copyrighted character, but there are distinct differences, and certainly when it comes to Ghost Breath's art, it's unmistakably a piece of our collection and not someone else's. Yeah. It's probably worth saying that if that wasn't included, that would be maintained in perpetuity even after holding your token, which would make no sense. So that has to go in. You have to have those rights live for the duration of your ownership and terminate at the point of sale. I think that's it really from a key terms and sort of summary of the document perspective. We've been going about 30 minutes, 35 minutes here, and look, I didn't expect this to be a particularly long one, but I think it's necessary that we make ourselves available for questions. And it might be that people are still digesting what we're saying, or they agree, or they want to go away and give it some more thought before coming back with more questions. Please give it some time. Come back to us with considerations, views, having read through it. We're really conscious that we want to make this a fair and transparent process all the way through. That's partly why we're doing this. So if there are no questions right now, we probably will wrap the stage up and share the recording so that people can go away and catch up if they miss out this evening. We are aware it's the Easter weekend as well, so people are busy. It's Saturday night. People have lives. Totally understand. But we'll drop that recording in. You can have an opportunity to digest it at your own leisure and time. Any final comments before we kick ourselves off here, Jack? Cool. So I think that's about it from us. If you celebrate Easter, have a wonderful day tomorrow. Crypto Jack and I will be back on Monday for a big day. It's the day before the day. So we'll be on stage. We'll be doing an AMA. We'll be really going at everything full tilt before pre-sale on Tuesday. So very exciting times now. We're not long till launch and we can't wait to get into it now. So without further ado, we'll leave you to your lives. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again Monday. And yeah, we'll share the recording and ask us questions as things come into your head. Thanks very much for that. See you later, everyone. Bye.